Morning. Welcome to the science behind the sparkle. I want to welcome everybody here and pull up a seat and relax, and let's talk about our new wonderful cushion cut. I think that the question, or a lot of people would ask, is, why this cushion cut, and why would you want to cut such a stone? Well, we're a company that innovates. We're not imitators. We like to create an original product. Cushions are popular. Antique cushions are popular. But our antique cushions will only give us bright white light performance. They will miss that sparkle factor. People know us for our round brilliance and our princess cuts, which have amazing sparkle factor. So the challenge was, take a cushion, take the old antique, and create a modern look with it, and make sure that the stone would have an unbelievable sparkle factor. So we set out to take on this challenge and see what we could do with it. Now, there were many varied problems in actually handling this project, especially in planning and design. Here, if one looks at cushion cuts, one will see that a lot of these cushion cuts do not have uniform girdles. So we set certain parameters, and those parameters were as follows. Number one, there would be a diamond would have a uniform girdle. Very, very important. Number two, that stone would have 0 for light performance as assessed by the AGSL. That's the American Gem Society Laboratory. We find it the only scientific evaluative method out there today, and that's one of the reasons why we submit our stones for evaluation at the AGS. The third aspect of the stone was that it should have a heart narrow patterning, which of course is going to be the contributory factor to the sparkle factor ultimately. And we'll delve into that and look into each part of these details, or look into the details of all the above facts that I've just explained. Just to show you an outline of the actual stone. This is a basic outline of the stone to show the shape of the stone. The crown facet at the top, the crown facets are not structured in such a way. It's almost like a round stone, but we are missing certain half facets over here, which is just one facet, versus here where you have the split half facets. And here you only have a single facet as you go around. Then of course you might notice the bottom of the stone. The bottom of the stone is traditionally not designed in the same method as a pure round stone, but there are some differences in some changes. And of course this is the profile view of the stone, and as one can see, one does have a uniform girdle. In actually constructing the stone, we had to take the bottom of the stone and actually twist it. As you can see in the first diagram, there you have your natural or your normal position of a round stone, where you would see the main facet at 12 and 6 o'clock. And we had to take this and twist this and put it into a position where this would be in the 11 and 1 o'clock position. One of the main purposes of doing this was in order for us to get the uniform girdle. And here is what you can see in terms of girdle. These are different other cushion cuts and square and cushion shaped cuts that are on the market. And if one notices, you can see all the girdles have big windows or big ugly open spaces when you view the stone from the side, which are going to allow for light leakage too. So this was my number one priority, to create a stone that had an absolutely beautiful, straight, uniform girdle, just as you would have in a round stone. And in order for us to achieve that, I'm just going to go back here. You can see this was part of that process to do that. So here we found the right combination of facets to make sure that we could align everything and to get that uniform girdle. Okay. The next important thing, of course, was to make sure that our combination of angles, meaning crown and pavilion angles, would give us maximum light performance. This is where we worked with the American Gem Society labs, and in conjunction with them we did various modeling before we actually went to a physical production of that stone. So there were many modeling situations to see what would give us the zero for light performance, and ultimately with tweaking and concentrating on the design in many respects, we ultimately came up with our zero for light performance. Now, in producing a fancy shape like a cushion cutter, it's not quite the same as producing a round brilliant. A round brilliant is uniform all the way around. You have uniform facets on the bottom, you have uniform facets on the crown. As you saw in the diagrams before, we have a mixed cut, meaning that the crown and the pavilion are a little bit different. So when one has to produce a stone economically, which may be affordable for consumers, we had to have a look at what would be the most cost-effective method, which does give us various ranges in producing the stone, meaning that our combination of crown pavilion angles, we have a much bigger range versus the strictness of our round stones. So once we had established that, then of course we limited light leakage in the stone, and we could maximize brilliant scintillation and sparkle. The third aspect which we had to cover was, of course, the actual hearts and arrows. Well, this, how can I say, this actually presented us with a lot of challenges. And those challenges were, how do you make this look as close to the patterning that we have in a round stone? As you know, our patterning in a round stone is very, very strict. So I would like to just go back to the diagram for you. Here you see a round stone. In a round stone, as I said previously, you have everything which is uniform in terms of its cut. The shape of the facets are uniform all the way around. Everything meets in a nice symmetrical manner. Much easier to produce something like this. So part of that challenge was, how do we put the round bottom, which we need to give us that brilliance, and match it up with the crown. As you can notice, first of all, the crown facets, especially the kite-shaped facets, in this instance are more irregular, not as uniform as in a round stone. When you have that, when one views this with one's eye or with a heart and arrow scope, you might get some shifting of that arrowhead. So it may not be as symmetrically aligned as you have it here versus here. But ultimately, we do know that the positioning of all these facets, we have perfect symmetry. So we have perfect meet point symmetry, because we still have to meet at these points. But optically, we might have a slightly different picture as we do in a round stone. Why the hearts and arrows? We have a beautiful stone which has a thin, consistent, or thin to medium girdle, number one. Number two, we have the angles which are optimized to return and maximize our dispersion, scintillation, and sparkle of the light. And number three, we want to align those mirrors so that we are returning everything back to the human eye. For those that who may not know this, but in AGS's research, as far as light performance, they covered, of course, the sparkle factor. And what is a sparkle factor? Well, I'm sure you've all stood in front of a mirror sometime in your life with a mirror behind you. And what you have is you have one mirror here and you have one mirror here. And so your reflection, if you looked into the mirror, I suppose if I did it this way, it would be easier. But if your reflection between one mirror, when you look into that mirror, you'll see many, many multiple reflections of yourself. The mirror in front and the mirror behind are the real mirrors. The multiple reflections are your virtual facets. So what happens is that you have many times the light bouncing around that stone. The better the optical symmetry, the more virtual facets you'll have. And the more virtual facets you have, the more the sparkle factor, and the better the sparkle factor of that diamond. This is what we set out to achieve. We have achieved it. And I think that if you look at the stone, if you see the stone in real life, and for those who have already purchased it, we thank you, and we know that you're very happy. And for those who are interested in purchasing it, you'll be very, very pleased to see the magnificent brightness, scintillation, and sparkle of this stone. If there are any questions that anybody has, please feel free to write into me, and I will be happy to answer them for you. I hope this answers a lot of questions for those who may have had the questions, why we think it's the brightest stone, why we've built it the way we've built it. And one other thing which I think I left out is that the way the stone has been structured, because we've maximized the white light return, lower colored stones in this cushion shape will face much, much whiter than its actual color grade. So I want to thank you once again for joining us, and we hope to see you again. Bye.